حي على الفلاح.
Quran is a book of guidance, not only for those people living in Arabia 1,400 years ago, but it is also guidance for us living in the world today. And it will be guidance for our children and our children's children, and it will remain guidance until Allah lifts up the Quran from this earth. It is the last and final revelation. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he is the seal of the messengers. How about the modern world? How can a book 1,400 years old be relevant in the modern world? How can a religion born in the desert have anything to do with modern life? You people, they say, you live in the Middle Ages, you live in the Dark Ages. These are the sorts of things that we constantly hear. The modern world is in reality the Western world and Western concepts. So the roots of this start in something called the Renaissance. The Renaissance is a movement away from religion. It's a movement primarily away from Christianity, towards a more rational and independent way of thinking. The first principle of the Renaissance and their thinking is that they no longer accept authority. Whether that authority is the Bible, or whether that authority is the ancient philosophers like Aristotle and Plato and Socrates, it is a rejection of authority. It is a chance for human beings in their mind to think again and to think freely without being tied down by these old concepts. Also linked in with this is something called the Industrial Revolution. And this is very intimately linked with an economic and philosophical concept called capitalism. And with the Industrial Revolution, a huge and unprecedented change takes place in terms of human demographics, in terms of human geography, in terms of the human social order. It turns the world upside down. And ultimately, of course, what we have is the ascent of science. Science now begins to become almost a new religion itself. Everything has to be justified within the context of science. Most people imagine science is certainty, but it's not. Science is actually speculation. So modernity, basically, or the modern world, is a scientific world, a rational world, and an industrial world. And of course, from the Industrial Revolution, we move to what we have today is the silicon chip revolution, the World Wide Web, the information revolution, and that's part of the modern world that we live in today, which is an extension really of what came before it. And with all of this comes something is called globalization. We can travel across the world, we can communicate with each other with the press of a button, we can talk to our family in another continent. And these are some of the amazing and fascinating things about the modern world. But in reality, globalization often means also the dominance of Western cultural ideas. Okay, politically, what are the defining factors of the modern world politically? We could talk about our freedom and democracy. But what it does mean is, by and large, that people have been empowered in a way that they have never been before. So here we have the ideas of democracy and freedom, and of course, secularism. The idea of separating political life and religious life. And that is also a very, very dominant theme philosophically and politically in the modern world. Okay, socially, one of the biggest social changes that has taken place in the modern world is the position of women. How women participate in society has been revolutionized. There is no doubt about that. A whole different approach to looking at women, not as mothers, not as wives, not as daughters and sisters and aunts and grandmothers, but as people who can contribute economically by working and spending and buying. Women are now looked at equally, along with men, as potential contributors to the economy in a direct way in which perhaps they have not been generally looked at in human history before. And perhaps also we could argue that there is an unprecedented level of prosperity. There is still poverty, there is still starvation, but there is an unprecedented level of prosperity and availability to food and many different services that were not there before. But one thing you might have noticed of the modern world is there's nothing to do with the akhirah. In fact, there's not a single thing that we could talk about that defines or fits in the broad definition of spirituality. The entire focus of modernity, the entire focus of the modern world is on the dunya. It's on the world and the things of this world, and in becoming economically prosperous, becoming politically strong. And so what we find, of course, especially in the West, is a spiritual vacuum. Searching for this and searching for that, going here and going there, looking everywhere they can, trying to find some answers to a question that everyone has. Is this it? Is that it? Really? Do I just go to school, get good grades, so I can get a good job, so I can earn lots of money, so I can afford to send my children back to a very good school? Is that the meaning of life? Is that the purpose of our existence? They spend their life running, earning money, building their empires for themselves. They reach a certain age when they have the car, the house, they have all of these things, yet they don't find they're any more happy. They don't find peace. Their life feels just as empty as it was before. The whole of the modern world is built upon a lie. The lie is that wealth equals happiness. The lie is that material success is the true success. That is the lie. And it's not that Islam is inviting us to poverty, no. But the Quran is telling us that the true meaning of life is something much deeper. That your stay on this earth is just a moment of a day. And whatever you build for yourself, whatever you accumulate for yourself, you will leave it all behind. None of it will go with you to your grave. Think about these verses of the Quran, my dear brothers and sisters. The worldly life distracts you until you reach the grave. Then you will come to know. Then again, moreover, definitely you will come to know. Then you will come to know with the knowledge of certainty, definite knowledge. You will have no doubts. What are you going to know, brothers and sisters? The reality of Jahim, the hellfire, the chastisement of Allah. You're going to know it with the certainty of vision, brothers and sisters, because you're going to see it. You're going to see it with your eyes. You will see Malik al-Maut come to take your soul. You will see him with your eyes. And when you are in your grave and the window is opened, you will see the hellfire. And the smell will come if you have died outside the guidance of God's guidance. You will smell its smell and you will feel its heat. You will see it for sure. Then you will know. You will be asked, we will be asked about the luxuries, the things we took delight in, the things we enjoyed from this dunya. The Quran speaks to the real you, the true you. The true you that will continue to live. The true you that will meet Allah on the day of judgment. The true you that will either go to the paradise or the hellfire. And what we do in this world, the way we behave in this world, what we choose to believe and how we act on our belief, that is what is going to determine our ultimate destination in the life to come. And this is the message of the Quran. There is not one thing in this book, not one thing the Prophet ﷺ said that is not as relevant today as it was relevant 1,400 years ago. And I want to give you one example, brothers and sisters. There was a time when I used to stand up, and one of the things I used to talk about was the evil of riba, and how it was oppression, and how it was tyranny, and how it was so bad. But you know what? People would laugh at me. They would say, you know what? You're mad. The whole world runs on riba. The whole world, it's an interest-based economy in the world. What are you talking about, you mad Muslim? Tell me something else. Why is riba so bad? Look at the prosperity it has created. Look at it. They would say, the whole world runs on riba and we're richer than we ever had to be. You know, all I could say to them is Allah has deprived riba of all blessing. Allah has allowed trade and forbidden riba. That's all I could say. But you know what? No one laughs at you today when you say that. Because they've seen how what Allah said is true. He effaces it. And riba, by the way, is the defining characteristic of the modern world's economic system. Allah speaks the truth. When Allah says it's haram, and that's all I need to know. And you know what, brothers and sisters, that's true about every single thing in this book, every single thing that was said on the tongue of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It will prove to be as relevant today as it was 1,400 years ago. But Islam came as something strange, and Islam will return as something strange. So Tuba, glad tidings to the strangers, brothers and sisters. And Allah will show His signs on the furthest horizons and within ourselves until we know that this book, the Quran, is the truth. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wa jazakallah khair wa assalamu alaikum.